Welcome, everyone. Today we're diving into a vital aspect of our democratic systems, the role of political parties and their profound effects on democracy. Political parties are not just mere organizations, they are the backbone of democratic governance. They serve as a bridge between the government and the citizens, facilitating communication and representation of diverse interests within a society. Let's start by defining what we mean by democracy. At its core, democracy is a system of government in which power resides with the people, who exercise that power directly or through elected representatives. Political parties play a crucial role in this process. They organize elections, mobilize voters, and provide a platform for political debate and discussion. Without political parties, the political landscape would be chaotic and fragmented, making it challenging for citizens to navigate their choices during elections. Political parties operate by bringing together individuals who share similar ideologies and policy preferences. They create a collective identity that helps voters understand where candidates stand on various issues, from healthcare to education and foreign policy. This organization is essential because it simplifies the decision-making process for voters, allowing them to align their choices with the party that best represents their values and interests. However, the very nature of political parties can also lead to polarization within the political system. As parties strive to differentiate themselves from one another, they often adopt more extreme positions to rally their base. This can create a us versus them mentality, where compromise becomes increasingly difficult. Over time, this polarization can erode trust in the institutions and lead to a more divided electorate. Moreover, political parties are influenced by various external factors, including media coverage, interest groups, and public opinion. The rise of social media has amplified these influences, allowing for rapid dissemination of information and sometimes misinformation, which can further entrench partisan divides. As we explore the effects of political parties on democracy, we will examine how these dynamics play out in real-world scenarios, illustrating both the positive and negative consequences of party politics. As we move forward in our explanation, keep in mind the critical question: how do political parties, while essential for democracy, contribute to polarization? And what can be done to mitigate these effects? This inquiry will guide our understanding of the intricate relationship between political parties and democratic process. To further explore the impact of political parties on democracy, we can delve into the concept of party systems. Different countries exhibit varying party systems, such as single-party, two-party, or multi-party parliamentary systems, Different countries exhibit varying party systems, such as single-party, two-party, or multi-party systems, each carrying distinct implications for democracy. For instance, in a two-party system like in the United States, the competition between the Democratic and Republican parties creates a clear distinction of policies, fostering a sense of accountability among voters. However, this system may also limit voter choice, as many citizens feel compelled to align with one or two dominant parties, potentially stifling the diversity of political opinions. In contrast, multi-party systems such as those found in many European countries provide a broader spectrum of options for voters. While this diversity can lead to more representation and governance, it often results in coalition governments that can complicate decision-making processes and lead to policy compromises that may not fully reflect the electorate's preferences. Furthermore, the role of political parties in shaping public policy cannot be overstated. Parties influence not only the election and representatives, but also the legislative agenda once they assume power. The platforms they develop during the campaigns outline their priorities and proposed policies, which can lead to significant changes in laws and regulations impacting citizens' lives. This dynamic underscores the importance of party accountability, as voters must remain engaged and informed about their representatives' actions and decisions. Additionally, the relationship between political parties and interest groups can shape policy outcomes, as parties often rely on funding and support from these groups, which can influence their platforms and legislative priorities. Moreover, it's crucial to address the challenges that political parties face in the modern era. Issues such as declining voter trust, the rise of independent candidates, and the influence of money in politics have prompted many to question the effectiveness and integrity of traditional party structures. The increasing polarization seen in many democracies has led to a growing divide among citizens, making it harder for parties to appeal to a broad base. This polarization can also contribute to voter apathy, as individuals feel disillusioned with the political process. Exploring these challenges can provide valuable insights into the future of political parties and their ability to adapt to changing societal needs while maintaining their. In this section, we will explore the primary functions of political parties and how they contribute to the functioning of a democratic system. Understanding these functions is crucial for. Political parties also play a vital role in political socialization, which is the process by which individuals develop their political beliefs and values. Through party affiliation, individuals learn about political issues, ideologies, and the political process itself. Parties engage in outreach and education, helping citizens understand their rights and responsibilities within a democratic system. Another significant function of political parties is electioneering. Parties organize and run election campaigns, recruiting candidates, fundraising, and mobilizing voters. They provide structure and resources necessary for candidates to properly compete effectively in elections. This process is a necessity in ensuring that elections are competitive. Political parties are instrumental in formulating and articulating public policy. They develop and publish outlines of their positions on various issues, guiding their voters and candidates in decision-making. This allows for voters to make informed choices based on their preferences. Political parties also serve as a mechanism for holding elected officials accountable. When parties are in power, they hold responsibility for implementing their policies and, in theory, fulfilling their campaign promises. If they fail to do so, voters can express their dissatisfaction by voting them out next election. This accountability is essential for maintaining public trust in the political system. Political parties can help mediate conflicts within society by providing a structured way for competing interests to negotiate and compromise. In theory, bring together diverse groups facing the challenges of political parties in a democracy. George Washington's farewell address stands as a warning to the nation about the dangers of political factions. Deeming them as divisive, he further cautions Americans on the growing power and corruptibility of political parties. Upon the end of his second term, President George Washington wrote a farewell address to the American people, cautioning against many things, but most notably for today's discussion, the dangers of political parties and how they affect the democratic system.
They serve to organize faction, to give it an artificial and extraordinary force, to put in the place of the delegated will of the nation the will of a party, often a small but artful and enterprising minority of the community, and according to the alternate triumphs of different parties, to make the public administration the mirror of the ill-concerted and incongruous projects of fashion, rather than the organs of consistent unwholesome plans, digested by common councils and modified by mutual interests. However combinations or associations of the above description may now and then answer popular ends, they are likely, in the course of time and things, to become potent engines by which cunning, ambitious, and unprincipled men will be enabled to subvert the power of the people and to usurp for themselves the reins of government, destroying afterward the very engines which have lifted them to unjust domination. The government is too feeble to withstand the enterprises of faction, to confine each member to the society within the limits prescribed by the laws, and to maintain all in the secure and tranquil enjoyment of the rights of person and property. I have already intimated to you the danger of parties in the state, with particular reference to the founding of them on geographical discrimination. Let me now take a more comprehensive view and warn you in the most solemn manner against the baneful effects of the spirit of party generally. This spirit, unfortunately, is inseparable from our nature, having its root in the strongest passions of the human mind. It exists under different shapes in all governments, more or less stifled, controlled, or repressed. But in those of the popular form, it is seen in its greatest rankness, and is truly their worst enemy. The alternate domination of one faction over another, sharpened by the spirit of revenge, natural to party dissension, which in different ages and countries has perpetrated the most horrid enormities, is itself a frightful despotism. But this leads at length to a more formal and permanent despotism. The disorders and miseries which result gradually incline the minds of men to seek security and repose in the absolute power of an individual, and sooner or later the chief of some prevailing faction, more able or more fortunate than his competitors, turns this disposition to the purposes of his own elevation on the ruins of public liberty. Without looking forward to an extremity of this kind, which nevertheless ought not to be entirely out of sight, the common and continued mischiefs of the spirit of party are sufficient to make it the interest and duty of a wise people to discourage and restrain it. It serves always to distract the public councils and enfeeble the public administration. It agitates the community with ill-founded jealousies and false alarms, kindles the animosity of one part against another, foments occasionally riot and insurrection. It opens the doors to foreign influence and corruption, which find a facilitated access to the government itself through the channels of party passions. Thus the policy and the will of one country are subjected to the policy and will of another. There is an opinion that parties in free countries are useful checks upon the administration of the government, and serve to keep alive the spirit of liberty. This, within certain limits, is probably true, and in governments of a monarchical caste, patriotism may look with indulgence, if not with favor, upon the spirit of party. But in those of the popular character, in governments purely elective, it is a spirit not to be encouraged. From their natural tendency, it is certain there will always be enough of that spirit for every salutary purpose. And there being constant danger of excess, the effort ought to be by force of public opinion to mitigate and assuage it. A fire not to be quenched, it demands a uniform vigilance to prevent its bursting into a flame, lest, instead of warming, it should consume.
One of the most significant challenges we face due to political parties today is polarization. As parties become more ideologically distinct, the gap between them widens, leading to increased hostility and division among the electorate. This polarization can hinder constructive dialogue and compromise, making it difficult for parties to work together on critical issues. Many voters today express declining trust in political parties and institutions. Scandals, corruption, and perceived ineffectiveness contribute to this distrust. When parties fail to meet the expectations of their voters, it can lead to apathy and disengagement from the political process, undermining the democratic system. In his work Politics, Book 4, Aristotle speaks of the dangers of political factionalism and the conflicts that arise from it in societies. In chapters 4 to 5 specifically, he wrote about how political factionalism undermines the common good. Political parties serve as a platform to articulate the interests of various groups within a society. They gather and synthesize the concerns of their voter base, translating them into policies and proposals that aim to address these issues. By doing so, parties help to ensure that the voices of different demographics, including minorities, workers, and the youth, are represented in the political system. Political parties play an essential role in mobilizing voters during elections. They engage in outreach efforts to encourage participation. They educate the public about their platforms. They motivate citizens to exercise their right to vote. This mobilization is crucial for fostering democratic engagement and ensuring that electoral outcomes reflect the will of the people. Political parties offer the voter base choices in governance by presenting distinct platforms and ideologies. This competition among parties allows citizens to select representatives who align with their values and priorities most closely. Political parties hold elected officials accountable to the public. When elected officials fail to deliver on their promises or act against their interests, the voters can express their discontent through elections. This accountability encourages parties to remain responsive to the needs of the people and uphold democratic principles.